On a chilly June night in 1979, Luna Park in Sydney became the stage for a tragedy that would scar its history forever. At approximately 10 p.m. on the 9th of June, a small fire was first spotted amid the ageing, eerie decorations of the park's infamous ghost train. First believed to be part of the ride, what began as a minor spark soon escalated into a full-blown inferno, transforming a popular amusement ride into a deadly trap. Jenny Godson, her husband John, and their two young sons, Damien and Craig, had spent the evening immersed in the laughter and thrills of a lively family night at Luna Park. From dizzying rides to sticky-fingered snacks and bright arcade games, the hours had slipped by in a blur of joy and excitement. As the park's closing hour crept closer, the family made their way to what would be their final attraction, the ghost train. At the last moment, and despite the cold weather, the temptation of a nearby ice cream stand lured Jenny away from her family lining up for the ride. She told her boys that she would meet them as they came out of the ghost train, excited to hear all about the ride and how spooky it was. What she didn't know was that this simple, spontaneous decision would change the entire course of her life. In choosing to step away for just a few minutes, Jenny unknowingly saved herself and set the stage for a nightmare that she would live every day for the rest of her life. At the same time, Jason Holman and his 4 best friends were enjoying a night that marked their first taste of independence. For the young group, finally free from parental supervision, the ghost train was the perfect finale to end an evening at Luna Park. Jason, then 12 years old, vividly recalls the moment when his friends Richard Carroll, Jonathan Billings, Seamus Rahawley and Michael Johnson entered the ride ahead of him. Their carriages, filled with excited chatter and anticipation, soon encountered an unimaginable nightmare. Unknown to anyone outside, in the dark, labyrinth interior of the ghost train, a small fire quickly mutated into a raging blaze. Witnesses recalled that even before the blaze was noticed, a faint smell of smoke had permeated the ride, an odour many dismissed as part of the ghost train's special effects. Inside, a staged imitation fireplace suddenly held real flames. Some passengers, fooled by the theatrics, even reached out to touch what they thought was a harmless display. But when the next group of riders encountered visible flames and rising smoke, panic set in. But with no way to warn the ride attendants, people continued to enter the ride. With no emergency lighting and a disorientating track, escape became a desperate scramble. Once some of the passengers had escaped, they were able to alert the ride operators of the horror. As Jason's carriage approached the ride's entryway to join his friends, chaos erupted. An attendant, panic etched on his face, yanked Jason from his seat. From the outside, nothing seemed amiss, no visible smoke or flames. But inside, the train was being engulfed by thick, black smoke. In a matter of moments, empty carriages streaked out along the mechanical track, some still blazing, as desperate passengers stumbled toward the exits in a frantic bid for survival. Jason recalls standing there, watching in horror as he waited for his friends to emerge from the nightmare before him. He later said, "This fire was something different. This fire was just nuts, out of control, and massive, dwarfing us." At the ice cream stand, Jenny heard the screams, saw the flames, and smelt the smoke. She searched desperately for her family, hoping that they had escaped. But amid the turmoil, the true horror of the night became apparent. They were still on the ride. Tragically, 7 lives were lost that night. Among the victims were 4 Year 8 students: Richard Carroll, 13 years old, Michael Johnson, 12 years old, Jonathan Billings, 12 years old, and Seamus Rahuli, 12 years old, and a father, John, 29 years old, and his two sons, Damien, 6 years old, and Craig, 4 years old. In the final, heart-wrenching moments, the Godson family was found huddled together, with John's outstretched arms a shield against the encroaching fire. The day after the catastrophe, authorities attributed the disaster to an electrical fault, a conclusion announced at 3 p.m. on the 10th of June. A coronial inquest later delivered an open finding, stating that the permanent wiring and other fixtures of the ride were not responsible. Instead, the coroner suggested that the fire might have been sparked by something as mundane as a discarded cigarette butt, though no one had witnessed any smoking inside the ride. Critically, the inquest also highlighted a failure on the part of Luna Park's management to install or maintain an adequate fire suppression system, despite earlier recommendations from both the local council and the fire department. Years later, new testimonies and investigations would cast long shadows over the official narrative. In 1987, a government inquiry into corruption reopened the investigations, questioning the initial findings and pointing to severe shortcomings in the police investigation. Over the decades, several witnesses, including former ride attendant Frank Boitano and park patron Greg Chard, came forward claiming they had detected the unmistakable scent of kerosene, a common accelerant used in arson. 3 key witnesses from that fateful night, who had been at Luna Park, revealed that they had never been interviewed by the police during the original inquiry and were not included in the 1979 coronial inquest. Among these, Richard Visser, then 19, recalled the distinct smell of burning kerosene during a second ride later that night. 2 young staff members, Kerry Lawson and Kathy Dewar, provided startling accounts of a suspicious group of bikies seen roaming the park that night, including riding the ghost train just minutes before the blaze. They overheard snippets of conversation, mentions of kerosene and matches, and hurried plans to disperse, which hinted at a premeditated act. Their testimonies, along with those of others, fueled long-standing suspicions that the fire might not have been a tragic accident at all. The next morning, Kerry returned to Luna Park, prepared to give her statement to the police as she had witnessed the whole incident. But when she arrived, she saw that the entire ghost train wreckage was being cleared away at the direction of police. She later said, "I couldn't understand why it would be moved so quickly. I was assuming that there would have been still some investigation. There was nothing there to examine. It had gone." Kerry said that she stood there waiting to be questioned, but the police never approached her and never contacted her for an interview or statement. Nor was she included in the coronial inquest, despite being a key staff member on duty at Luna Park on the night of the fire. She said, "They were not interested in following up. I was upset that I wasn't interviewed. I did have things to say, and I would have told them that I believed the fire was deliberately lit." Adding further fuel to the fire, investigative reports in subsequent years even implicated notorious crime boss Abe Saffron. Rumours emerged that Abe had ordered the arson to force the park's leaseholders out, paving the way for lucrative redevelopment opportunities. The claims suggested that high-ranking police officials, including Detective Inspector Doug Knight, later revealed in an ABC documentary to have a corrupt history of accepting bribes, had deliberately downplayed evidence, misdirected the investigation, and rushed the clearing of the wreckage. These actions effectively erased vital forensic evidence, leaving many questions unanswered. According to police procedure at the time, the wreckage should have been cordoned off after all 7 bodies had been removed, in order to prevent evidence from being contaminated or destroyed. Fire and forensic experts stated that this routine site inspection process should have taken from a few days to several weeks to ensure a proper forensic investigation, yet it was demolished the next morning. The Ghost Train fire remains one of Australia's most harrowing tragedies, a stark reminder of how quickly a night of fun can turn into an inferno of despair. The conflicting accounts, unsolved mysteries, and alleged corruption behind the investigation continue to haunt those who remember that fateful night. For many, the memory of empty, burning carriages and the echoing screams of passengers is a chilling testament to a disaster that was as much about human error and neglect as it was about an act of arson shrouded in secrecy. This dark chapter in Luna Park's history is not merely a recounting of events. It is a call for transparency, accountability, and remembrance for those whose lives were abruptly cut short on that tragic evening.